There we go. All right. Well, we're excited to have everybody here today. We've got a really important conversation to have. This webinar today is going to be focusing on resilience and suicide prevention, specifically during kind of this challenging year that we've had navigating the pandemic. And we are really grateful for the expertise that we have on our panel today. So I want to get right into it. So I'm going to introduce our two panelists, and then we'll jump right into the conversation. We're going to try to keep it to about an hour, and I'm excited to hear what they have to hear. So first, we're thrilled to have with us back Dr. Greg Hudnall. Dr. Hudnall is the founder of HopeSquads, former high school principal, and is considered one of the leading experts in the nation on community and school-based suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention. He lives by the mantra, while it takes a village to raise a child, it takes an entire community to save one. His work in suicide prevention has been recognized nationally, and he's done really, really important work right on the front lines of this really important topic. So welcome, Greg. We're thrilled to have you.
Great to be here, Jason. Thank you very much.
Then joining Dr. Hudnall, we have Christian Moore, LCSW. Christian's a licensed clinical social worker, internationally renowned speaker, and passionate advocate for youth. He's the author of The Resilience Breakthrough and founder of the WhyTry program, which is one of the top social emotional learning programs used in over 30,000 schools across the United States. And as a clinical social worker that has also created a program and an intervention on resilience. Christian has dealt specifically with suicide prevention, both as a practitioner in his practice and organizationally through the material and the support that he provides to institutions throughout the country. Welcome, Christian.
Awesome to be here. Now, I do have to take a moment. I know you've already introduced Dr. Hudnall, but I have to say, many years ago, I guess almost 25 years ago, he gave me my first job as a school social worker. So he's also a mentor to Christian Moore. There's a good chance I'm doing what I'm doing because of the impact he had on me early in my career and believed in me. So not only does he have his own incredible program, he made a huge influence on WhyTry. So I got to pay my respects to Dr. Hudnall there.
Well, Christian, it's always a pleasure to be with you. You have done so many amazing things with your life, but I just want to set the record straight. I was the high school principal. He was the social worker that drove me crazy. So let's never forget that, brother.
Yeah, we had a good time. Well, I learned a lot. He really was one of my first mentors in mental health. So it really is an honor to be with him.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, welcome both of you. We're excited to hear what you have today and to say today. And I know a lot of people are really interested to get to the discussion. My name's Jason Johnson. I'm a school psychologist. I'll be kind of acting as moderator, and my goal is to keep you two talking and to otherwise just kind of stay out of the way. So I thought maybe a good starting point would be just to share a little bit about the work that you've both been doing around mental health and suicide prevention, specifically during this pandemic. Maybe we could start with you, Greg, and then after you respond, we'll hear from Christian.
Yeah, so I'm a former high school principal, associate superintendent with the Provo City School District. HopeSquads started out of Provo. It's a school-based peer-to-peer. We're in about 900 plus schools around the world. And our focus, of course, with COVID is moving everything online. So how to support kids that are stressed and dealing with anxiety and depression and other things by losing contact with each other. And then, of course, our amazing teachers, educators that are struggling because they're having to lose that contact or try to do as much online. So we have a lot of resources that are available online on our website. We also provide support to schools, students, and to parents, specifically if they're struggling, needing help, reaching out, providing that support.
Awesome. Thank you. How about you, Christian? What have you been working on in relation to mental health and suicide prevention during the pandemic?
Yeah. I spent 22 years running around this country live, speaking in live settings, working on these issues. And, basically right now I've been just focused on these type of webinars and podcasts and workshops, and just trying to work with community organizations, where I'm physically at different times, trying to get some of these tools out. But I guess kind of a big picture, what I've really been trying to do during this time is showing youth and families, how to channel their emotions, their positive and negative emotions, and create productive outcomes with them. Because during this pandemic, there's a lot of intense emotions and tremendous challenges, and before the pandemic, I was really focused on doing that, but it's been an incredible experience. It really seems to have resonated that we can create productive outcome with negative emotions. So that's been, I focused on that way more than I realized I was going to focus on that when the pandemic hit. So that's been fun.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I think maybe we can jump right into it. So I think we've got a good mixed audience here. We have people from education backgrounds. We have people from mental health backgrounds, from corrections, juvenile justice, as well as some others. And maybe we can just kind of work through a little bit what different organizations can do to try to provide support for students that are struggling right now. Greg, I know this is kind of your area of expertise, so maybe we can start with you. Talk a little bit about what schools could be doing to promote support for students that are struggling right now. And then Christian, if you want to add in thoughts as we.
Jason, now might be a good time to walk through some of those slides and just kind of reference them as I share the information, and individuals can kind of monitor.
Do you want me to share them from my machine?
Yeah. Why don't you just pull those up and we'll just go through. So click the first slide. Next one. Yeah. So here's one of the things, this one right here. One of the things that we're learning is that social distancing is causing social isolation. Really important to remember, after about sixth grade, when you start in the middle school, it's more important to have a friend than it is to have a family member. Difficult for us as parents to understand that. But when that's removed, because kids are being more and more isolated because of not being able to be in school and connecting that way, makes it really challenging and difficult. Next. So what we're finding, less time on campus, you're starting to see that level of anxiety, that depression. And one of the things that we're finding a lot with young people is that fear of being alone, being left out, and unfortunately, even in some challenges, we're seeing that raise of kids that are struggling. Christian and I talked about it yesterday because of the number of kids that are having to go homes that are very dysfunctional. And so they're not getting that support and attention and other things. Next slide. So these are the things that we've suggested for teachers that we have found to be very helpful. Number one is have students with a buddy system online to check in with each other. So if you're a teacher, you have teachers that are working, or even this can work for parents that are working with kids that are struggling, find another student so that there's a buddy system that is checking in on each other. The other thing I've found, we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of teachers during this COVID time. And one of the things that we see rising to the top that is so critical is for teachers to send out a daily positive message to students, and it's addressed to them. There's some great platforms out there. There's Canvas and there's other things that you can use. But I sat down with a teacher not too long ago, and she talked about how she just every morning sends out, and it's a different positive message. Hey, today we're going to have a great Tuesday. Want you to know I'm thinking about you, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a positive message so that kids know that they're known, so that they're being watched out for. And then assign students to work as a team. There's a lot of great platforms out there and ways for students to work together. The research continues to show that learning has gone down because of the online, the inconsistencies and things. But the more that we can do to help kids connect with others, the more valuable it can be. And then one of the top things that I talk about, I was actually in Colorado working with some schools, is to find creative ways to assign students homework that encourages them to be outside. They need to be outside getting the sun, even, the weather and other things that way. Another thing that I would encourage schools to consider doing and remembering is that, when school is in session and it's not online, and we're seeing hybrid courses across the country. We go 2 days or 1 day on, 1 day off. We go, 2 days and then we're off, 2 days, whatever. But when the kids are coming into school, they're having to wear their mask, and the staff, secretary, staff, and other school nurses are checking their temperature. One of the things that I strongly encourage you to do is that when you're checking that temperature is to use the student's name. Hey, Bobby, how are you today?
Awesome.
And if you don't know the student, to say, hey, I don't recognize you with your mask. Can you remind me what your name is? And then you start to get to know them better. But always, always, always mention their name. Bobby, thank you for sharing that with me. It's great to have you at school today. Next slide. So ask and I just talked about, ask your student's name as you check their temperature. One of the things we have found, we're working with a lot of schools down in Las Vegas, and Jacqueline, I saw your name on there. Create a wellness week a semester. So find ways that even though you may be online, what are the things that I can remind my students about eating appropriately, about getting exercise, about taking care of themselves, whether it's yoga, whatever it is, but find those opportunities to create that wellness week. Monthly school-wide mental health lessons. We have lessons that are school-wide, that are messages that go out. We call them our mental wellness lessons that go out to kids. And then we're also working with some amazing performers, creating an online school assembly. Do a 15-minute motivational speaker that you can then send out to all of the students so that they get that positive connection with the rest of the school, and then finding ways for students to connect. Next. So what are the suggestions for parents when kids are being taught at home? These are the things that I have found very, very valuable. I work with some school psychologists and some psychiatrists in the state of Utah. And these are some of the things that we have come up with that we have found to be very helpful. Plan to eat at least one meal a day as a family. I know it's going to be hard to believe, but what the research is showing is that suicide has actually gone down during this pandemic. And the reason it's gone down is because families are spending more time together. It's more connectedness. So plan to eat at least one meal a day as a family. Schedule set times when to go to bed and when to get up. I know sometimes we say, oh, they don't have to be at school. Let's just stay up all night, or let's sleep in. But you're starting to move away from that schedule that is so important for those kids, to know when to get up and when to go to bed. It's that system that's within them. Limit time on electronics. And I know we're asking so much as educators that I need you to be on time this long or whatever. But I have found the families that are the most successful will say, honey, you get 2 hours for this online, and then we're going to take a 2-hour break or an hour break or whatever. And then once again, I'm big on requiring time outside. My son once said to me, Dad, it's like 7 degrees out there. And I said, I know, let's go, right? Because it doesn't matter. Get them outside, get them active and engaged, even if it's snowing or cold or whatever, and be out there with them. Don't just throw them out the door and close the door, but engage with them and be out. And then encourage daily connection with friends, whether that's, chatting, texting, or whatever, but that they're still having that connection. Next slide. I'm going to quickly go through these. Basic principles of mental health. Understand that depression is a disease and it's not a self-indulgent or failure of will. People can't just get over it. For years, we've told individuals, if you're struggling with depression or a challenge, please let me know. I'm here to help. Next slide. But the challenge is, in most cases, those struggling, especially with a severe mental illness, severe depression, will not ask for help. Many times they're embarrassed, they're ashamed, they don't know what to do, and they don't want anybody to know. And too many times they feel like they're the only one. Next. So why do people hesitate to ask for help? A lot of times, especially with young kids, they don't understand what they're going through. They know they're different. They know they're having an experience that's different than their peers, but it's really difficult to describe it. They're unsure of what's the help? What are resources out there? Am I going to be punished? Am I going to be sent to the state hospital? And they don't know what to expect. If I tell, am I going to get in trouble? Will my parents be mad at me because we don't have insurance or whatever it is? And then I talked about that shame, fear, that stigma. And then the number one thing I'm seeing right now is lack of financial resources. In my own community, it's about a 2-month waiting list to see a psychiatrist, and it's very, very expensive. Next. So you and I, educators, school board members, superintendents, parents, bus drivers, custodians, lunch ladies, teachers, principals, every one of us, we have to consider ourselves on the front line of mental health care. We must have the courage to reach out to individuals when we notice that they're struggling. We have to have the courage to cross the line. And that's why our Hope Squad has been so successful, is that we train kids to identify peers that are struggling and then have the courage to reaching out to them instead of waiting for that individual to come back to them. Next. So understanding suicide, general population, suicide is often a silent tragedy. We're afraid to talk about it. We think that if we talk about it, it's going to give someone the idea, when in reality, talking about it can be the best thing that we can do. Young people don't want to die. They want the pain to go away, but they don't know how to make that pain go away. Next. So what are the warning signs? And I only have 2 more slides and then we're done. Saying goodbye, mood swings, being emotionally high, the bipolar, being preoccupied with death, dying, or violence. And then many times with young people, I see them feeling trapped or hopeless about a situation, and they feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Next. So these are the resources, and then I'm going to turn it back to you, Christian. There's a national crisis text line that is amazing. All you have to do is do 741-741 on the number, and then in the space for a message, you type in hello. And then we have partnered with Boys Town National Hotline. It's a great organization. We use it. We have about 30,000 Hope Squads around the country and Canada, and we have them use this because they have a great text line or a crisis line that they can turn to, and it's all free. Thank you. I get too excited.
With good reason. That's good stuff. Great.
Yeah, I want to add too, I'm a huge fan of Boys Town. I've had the opportunity to work with them over the years, and they do incredible stuff.
Yeah, great thing. Let me just add this next slide. Jason, thank you for pulling that up. Just 2 more slides and then I'll be quiet. So
yeah.
we have partnered with parentguidance.org. It's an amazing free program for parents. It's out of the Cook Foundation here in Utah. Parents can go online, take lessons for free, and join a support group of other parents that are struggling in different things that way. It's an amazing program. So it's parentguidance.org. And it's free. Every educator should have it on their school and on their district website so that parents can get to it and get the help that they need. It is an amazing program. And then the next one, thanks, Joe. I appreciate your comment. Our website, HopeSquad.com. If you just go to the website, it will click on COVID-19 resources. We're actually in elementary, 4th, 5th, 6th, middle school, high school, colleges. But this is all free. You click on the learn more, and there's a lot of resources specifically for parents, teachers, and students with COVID. Okay, now I'll step down. Thank you.
That's awesome, Greg. That was some incredible information.
Thank you.
Very good. You want me to jump in, Jason, on a couple things?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Christian? Before I'm going to have you address maybe some support for individuals. I just wanted to see if you had any additional pieces you want to add to that.
Yeah, a couple of things. I want to share 2 or 3 things for schools and for parents, and then I'll talk about individual as well. Is that all right? I'll just highlight real quick here. So for schools, one thing I'm hearing a lot from kids is a lot of students have said to me, man, some of their teachers, when they give an assignment online, it has to be due at a certain time, and they miss it sometimes a lot. They don't get the right information because the communication in a virtual setting is sometimes difficult. And a lot of times just the kids it could be their home life, it could be challenges at home, and they they don't quite get the right assignment or get it in on time. And what we're seeing is kids are staying more motivated, more likely to engage in school online if there's flexibility, if they can have second chances to turn stuff in. We're seeing incredible results with that because we'll see kind of both scenarios where it's very rigid and where it's flexible. And I think at the end of the day, as long as the kids get the assignment in, they got the information, they've learned the work, that's more important than picking up the sword on kind of black and white. If it's not in on this day, then we're coming down with the hammer on you. I think that's so important right now. I also think that has a huge impact on anxiety, depression. When kids are dealing with those issues and things are rigid, it's just going to exacerbate, it's going to make those things way, way, way more intense for them. The second thing I want to share with you, I had a one of my kids' teachers did something the other day that I thought was incredible. And it was an assignment where they really took out any type of rigidity in the assignment. The assignment was just, pretty simple, was to express how, and they could express it any way, how right now during the pandemic, what being strong looks like, what being resilient looks like. And they could do anything. They could write a poem, draw a picture, build something, sing a song. They could do something in a group setting with other kids. The teacher was encouraging what Greg was just talking about, going outside, being outside and having those state changes and getting the sun is so powerful. So, they could go outside and pick up, take a stick and build something out of the stick or design something with leaves and sticks and grass or just things in nature. They could take a, movie clip, a YouTube clip, but just that, online, giving them autonomy in assignments is really, really powerful. With parents, what parents and families can do to support children right now. I just read a study that was interesting yesterday. I was reading this study and they were saying kids need at least 6 hugs a day. That might sound really simple, but after I read that study yesterday, I hugged both my kids 6 times. And it literally changed all the dynamics in the home. I mean, it lowered the tension in half. It's the most simple thing. But I think right now that physical contact, physical touch for parents right now with kids is really, really important. And I think it's also important that parents are vulnerable right now and share, where appropriate, your own fears and struggles and concerns, especially when we're dealing with suicide ideation. I want the child to realize that mom and dad might be dealing with the same internal pain that they're dealing with now. But the child, because they have maybe less coping skills, is leading to more suicide ideation. But I'm trying to normalize those emotions, and they see that in their parents, and they realize, wow, hey, my dad's dealing with this, my mom's dealing this with an uncle. And one thing I suggest to people is, if there's an aunt or an uncle, a cousin, or someone that's a mentor that the child's close to, have them spend time with some of those extended family members right now during this. That I think those extended family members can play a huge role right now. The other thing I want to emphasize for the parents is, it's probably one of my favorite interventions. I know I've talked about this one before on some of these webinars, but it's still my favorite intervention, is just giving kids a safe space, a safe word. So if the kid says ice cream, if your child says ice cream, that means you're going to spend the next hour with them. They know between 4 and 5 o'clock when they're eating ice cream with you, anything they tell you, you're going to work together as a team to solve it. They're not going to be punished. They're not going to be judged. There's no hammer coming down on them. That when they go do this activity with you, it's literally, they're in a situation where they're completely safe. And you're going to problem solve this like 2 adults. You're going to work together as a team to help them work through whatever their biggest emotional internal battle is. And then what's interesting, the last couple of days, I've been dealing with some pretty intense suicide situations. It's kind of crazy as it kind of came up to doing this with Dr. Hudnall. And I asked a young man the other day, and this is a young man, he's doing great now, but he had attempted suicide over 3 times, one of the most intense suicide ideation situations I've dealt with in a long time and seen. And I just asked him, I said, I'm going to be speaking tomorrow. I'm going to be talking to, quite a few people about this. What do you wish your parents would have done, or people around you? What could they have done to make a difference? And he shared 3 things with me. The first thing he shared with me is just the parent is observing the courage that I'm tapping into to just stay alive right now. I mean, when you're rock bottom, and you're just getting out of bed, you're putting one foot in front of another. There's huge courage in that. And he says, finally, when one of his parents noticed his courage during his pain, that made a huge difference. So I just want to pass that on. Remember, this is coming from him, not me, but I just want to get the voice of someone who's been in this situation. And then both the parent and the child have to be vulnerable to create more connection. And so just that, vulnerability on both sides, understanding that. And then he says, when I get into the danger zone, I have a plan to reach out, to a suicide clinic. I knew exactly what I was going to do in that moment. And me and Greg, we'll talk more about that in a minute from a clinical standpoint. But I just, from his perspective, was just that when he's in that danger zone, he has a specific plan. And then the last one he mentioned was be aware of how systems like homeschool are impacting your feelings negatively. You don't have to accept rejection, shame. Focus on who you really are, not the box that you've been put in a little bit. And that's what he talked about, was just focusing on who he really is. And the reality is, at home, in your neighborhood, in these different systems, sometimes, you may be put in that box. And he just talked about just focusing on who he really was made a difference. So anyways, I just want to pass on, and this young man is doing great right now. And I just wanted to pass on what he thought was significant to him. So just trying to be his voice a little bit. So I appreciate your patience there. And yeah, that's my main stuff there.
You want to, Christian, let's have you talk maybe a little bit about some specific strategies that we can share with individuals, maybe with the students, to help them out. And then after that, maybe we'll have Greg respond to that.
Okay, let me pull up my screen here. I'm gonna have Jason's expertise come over here, make sure I don't mess this up here. All right, here we go. So I'm pulling up this one right here. It's the combo right there, right? All right.
Okay.
Hit play. All right. So one intervention that I've been doing a lot as I've been doing therapy in the last few months, working with people and families that are dealing with tremendous pain right now during the pandemic. And let me see here. Let me do it one more time here. Sorry, Jason's we'll pull this up here. Oh, there we go. Got to pull it up there. All right. Sorry, I'm the least technical social worker in America, but we almost got it here. There we go. All right. So we've had just some incredible experiences the last few months with a lot of youth and families, just helping them understand that to feel sad, hurt, angry, depressed, that's just part of being human. It's part of the human condition. And when we feel those feelings, we have an opportunity, to create a productive outcome. My whole life I was trained in positive psychology. What we say to ourselves is going to lead to our actions, is going to lead to our behaviors. We just want to say positive things. And one of the first things we have to be resilient is we have to have something to bounce back from. We have to have suffering. And when that suffering shows up, we know we're going to have negative emotions. So I'll tell youth, look, it's like a car battery. You can't just charge a battery with a positive connection. You can't just charge a battery with a negative connection. It's the combination of the positive and negative coming together. For example, if me speaking to you guys right now was dependent on those emotions on the left, happiness, motivation, love, acceptance, peace, trust. I grew up with both my parents had some mental health issues, grew up with reactive attachment disorder. If it was dependent on those emotions, I wouldn't be speaking to you right now. Luckily, I had some incredible people come into my life. Even Greg mentoring me early in my career, they started showing me what to do when I feel anger, sadness, regret, loneliness, depression, that there's no law in the universe that says you cannot create a productive outcome with these emotions. So, for example, the last 2 therapy sessions I did, and even the last 24 hours on working with some young men that were suicidal, is I had them identify their emotions, and I just talked to them about their emotions that are negative, that even the emotions that are leading to some of this ideation, that they literally, even though it's greatly painful, that those emotions are part of being human. Everybody experiences negative emotions. We have about 40 to 60,000 different emotions during the day. And some of those emotions are going to be positive and some of those emotions are going to be negative. And I've just been brainstorming with them how to create a productive outcome with the negative emotion. And it's very refreshing to them. Oftentimes they'll say, wow, everybody just wants me to get rid of these emotions. I've had these emotions my whole life. They're not going anywhere. And I say to them, you know what, reality is they may not go anywhere, but now you got to figure out how to walk with them. And I'll explain to them, I have an anxiety disorder. So when I'm given a speech, I'll literally talk to the anxiety and say, okay, Mr. Anxiety, you're going to be doing this speech with me. And so instead of, if I try to fight against it, then my anxiety is going to lead to a panic attack. And so again, what makes us human is the fact that we experience negative emotions. We would be like a robot or a machine if we only had positive emotions all day. And you can see the weight of the world come up off people when they realize that it's normal to feel sad, hurt, angry, depressed. That's just part of being human. And then I'll brainstorm with them how we can create productive outcomes in those negative emotions. And it's very empowering. They get excited. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I could create productive outcomes with this. And then the emotions don't have as much control. I'll explain to these, to the kids that most thoughts that are popping into their mind, they don't control the thoughts. I'll have them do an experiment. Say, just close your eyes and don't think about a pink elephant. You're going to be thinking about a pink elephant. We don't control our thoughts. We control what we do with those thoughts. And so with this metaphor here is a specific thing I do is just show them that, look, it's okay to experience these gamut of emotions. By normalizing that, it lowers their anxiety. They feel less depressed. They feel more motivated. Now, in saying that, and if they have chronic depression, I have chronic anxiety. I've had to be on medication for anxiety. You still need to maybe meet with a mental health person. You may still need medication, but what makes human beings special is that they can tap into both positive and negative emotions. There's no law in the universe that says you can't do that. So that's a specific intervention that I do when I'm doing intervention with people who are dealing with suicide ideation. Another thing I want to emphasize real quick is something called resource resilience. And it's interesting. I was just reading last night, the CDC was saying that, and Greg referred to it too, economics has a huge impact. When our basic needs are not being met, we have very little motivation. And we have to, resilient people are not resilient in a vacuum. They literally have lots of supports around them. You recognize that resilience can be increased by tapping the resources available to you. For example, this guy fishing on this river there, he didn't put the river there. He's accessing the water, he's accessing the nutrients in it, he's accessing the fly rod, the wader. And so he has all these resources that he's able to tap into that enables him to thrive. So you fight resonation with spontaneity. You recognize that your resources include talents, relationships, physical assets, personality traits. So I just want them to identify all the things in their environment that can help make a comeback. And a lot of times kids just aren't aware of all the resources around them. And again, we're seeing when people work through some of these suicide ideation feelings, again, they have tremendous supports. And the research on relational resilience that Greg's talking about, that connectedness is so important as well. We call that relational resilience, where you go through the motions, you don't give up because another person needs you, you need them. That interdependence in combination with this resource resilience is very, very powerful. You realize that you have undeveloped talents and untapped capabilities you can also develop. One of my favorite examples of resource resilience is this gentleman right here, is Kyle Maynard. He was born with no arms, no legs. He wrestled in high school and college. A couple of years ago, he put rubber balls on the end of his stubs and crawled all the way to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. And all any of us can do is maximize our resources where we're standing. I work on different reservations across the country. I'm literally working with children who have dirt floors. And I see some of these kids who literally have dirt floors are thriving more than the kid living in the $2.5 million home. I'm always fascinated by that, because what I realize with that is it's it's just all any of us can do to be resilient is maximize where we stand with how much money we do or do not have in the bank, our current mental health, our economic resources, who our support systems are. We can only maximize where we are. So resilience is something that takes place in the striving. It's not a destination. So I often, when I'm working with someone who has suicide ideation, I'll say, listen, you're not going to master this. You're not trying for any type of perfection. All I want you to do is make it through the next 1 second, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And we're just building that motivation. And then we're putting as many support systems around them to help them thrive. So those are the kind of two interventions that I kind of emphasize as I'm working with children. The other thing I want to emphasize real quick around this is kind of a simple social work intervention I do with individuals, but I think this can be applied across the board is, first you just kind of want to ask, how do you, ask them, how do you hurt and how can I help you? So if I'm approaching just a friend, I'm not doing this from a therapeutic standpoint. I'm just going to start out with asking what Greg was saying, just put it on top the table, how do you hurt? How can I help you? And then number two is be there, be physically present, speak on the phone, text them, but just be there in some aspect, physically, or just they know that you're going to be following up with them. And then keep them safe, establish immediate safety. And that's where, referring to a mental health provider or getting them access to a hotline and stuff, but just make sure that immediate safety is established. And then, helping them connect to a crisis line or to a counselor is a big part of that. And then follow up to see how they are doing, text, call, Zoom, drop by, but that follow-up is so important, taking them to lunch. And so I just want to emphasize, those are kind of my direct practice interventions.
Awesome. Thank you, Christian. Greg, anything you want to add to that or respond to that?
I think one of the things that I'd really like to mention is, especially to the educators that are out there, I'm seeing a lot of your comments and a lot of feedback that way. One of the most important things is taking care of yourself. We come from a family of 10 educators, 10 children. Mom is an elementary teacher, dad is a Spanish high school teacher, and we have principals, coaches, special ed, self-contained, sister-in-law, you name it. And one of the things we're learning is that we are burning out, and we are burning out educators. So first of all, my fellow educators out there and mental health folks and others, but we're not going to help anyone else if we don't help ourselves first. Yeah. That's one of the key ingredients we even teach our Hope Squad members. And so one of the top things I try to remind educators is that you've got to get enough sleep. You can only do so much. And as I read through I'm scrolling through all of the challenges that teachers have, you will not save everybody. And you will not be able to help everybody. I know we want to, and in a perfect world, we would be able to. But the reality is you first have to take care of yourself before you can help others. And the three things that I talk about: sleep, exercise, and eating. Staying up all night with potato chips and ice cream, which I do once in a while with my college daughter, that wears you out and it takes you away from everything else. So I think the most important thing is taking care of yourself. And then I think the second thing, and I heard this quote, and I can't remember, it's not mine, but I heard it and it really resonates with me. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. I had a situation with a student when I was a principal that was being arrested. And as they were putting down the information, we found out that our birthdays were the exact same days. And now he's graduated, I've moved on, but he and I go out for lunch every year, and we've been doing it for over 15 years. Be kind. I know it's frustrating because as education, we are putting things on your back that is unfair and is unrealistic. And we're in a situation that makes it difficult. So for me, you take care of yourself. And then once you're able to take care of yourself, you're going to be so much better to be able to take care of others.
Awesome. Thank you. Great insight. Wondered if maybe we could address, I think one of the challenges around this topic sometimes is that some people are unsure or maybe aren't confident in their ability or how they should discuss this or start conversations around it. I think there's a lot of different ideas and conflicting opinions about what it's okay to talk about, what words we should use. And I think sometimes that fear of doing it wrong can kind of stunt people's willingness to move forward. Do you have any advice, either of you or both of you? Actually, we'll start with Greg and then maybe hear from Christian. Any advice on how we can approach this topic and the best way to go about it?
You were talking about suicide, Jason. Is that what?
Yes, so both. I think there's stigma around specifically suicide, but also mental health in general.
Yeah, um, mental health is such a negative connotation. In fact, there's been longitudinal studies and by Dr. Doug Gray in the state of Utah, where he did a 5-year study looking at over 120 youth suicides and psychological autopsy, where they did a hair sample, blood sample, interviewed parents, interviewed educators, etc. We're still doing this in Utah right now. But one of the things we found is that the term mental illness, or that your child is mentally ill, automatically shuts down parents. They're embarrassed, they're ashamed. Think about it. If my child's crazy, I must be crazy. That's the connotation out there. So one of the things I like to talk about is mental wellness, so that when I'm working with a family who may be struggling with a depression, or I get called out a lot to emergency rooms, meeting with faith-based leaders, etc., when there's a crisis. And one of the things I'll try to do when I talk to that young person and talk to the family is, let's talk about mental wellness and how we can help you get well. And it's amazing what that does to take away from the negative stigma. The second thing, and I would encourage my fellow educators, is that when you do have a young person that you're worried about, it really is the connotation of being upfront and honest. I've noticed lately that you seem to be depressed. I've noticed the stuff that you're writing seems to be really dark. Can I share with you? I'm concerned, and I'm wondering if you're okay. I like to use the I message, so it's not you. You did this, you did that, but it's really heartfelt from the heart that, hey, I want you to know I care about you, and I've really appreciated the work that you've done so far. But I've also noticed over the last few weeks that it's starting to turn dark, or you've made this comment about hurting yourself. I'm wondering if you're okay. So then I always start with that. And then I'm never afraid to ask, have you ever thought, and because I work with a lot of young kids, elementary, middle school, and high school, I always start out with, have you thought of hurting yourself? Have you thought of suicide? Have you thought of killing yourself? So don't ever be afraid to ask that question. Now, it's very important, and I don't want to stop until I really drill this down. If you ask that question, you've got to be ready for the response, and you better know where you're going for help, because that has to be the most important question on how to follow up on. So know your local resources. Someone just asked, I always like to ask if you have a plan. I'm always really cautious with that, with teachers and others, and I leave that to the school counselors and the psychologists and the mental health experts. There's nothing wrong with asking it, but for me, I always like to ask, if you thought about hurting yourself, thought about killing yourself, have you thought about suicide? Christian?
All right. Yeah, I really want them to understand that mental health is genetic. We do know that it's genetic, and mental illness runs in almost every family. Every family is impacted by mental health issues, and it's painful that we have this stigma for that language. I wish there was another language. I oftentimes I won't refer to it even as mental health. I'll just refer to it as part of the human condition. Part of the human condition is to hurt and to have challenges. The biggest war we fight is between our ears. I'm just trying to normalize that. Another way I normalize it is just by saying everybody has their own personal rock bottom. It's on a different continuum for everybody, but we all have our own personal rock bottom. And almost everyone will have feelings of wanting to shut down or give up. Now it's at different degrees. It might not even be suicide ideation, but everybody, during COVID, there was times, man, first, 2 or 3 months of COVID, I've been speaking for 22 years. I couldn't speak. I had almost no income coming in. I was rock bottom. I literally felt like giving up. Now, I wasn't suicidal at that point, but I tell you, it was good for me to experience, because throughout my life, when I've been rock bottom, I've always been a fighter, but that was for a couple weeks there. I was like, wow, how am I going to make that comeback? So now I can say, hey, I've had real feelings of wanting to shut down or give up. Now I didn't, and it might not, again, it might not have been suicide ideation, but I glimpsed, man, I could be losing everything I've worked for my whole life. And we know, divorce, losing a job, all those things have huge impact. And so just normalize. I mean, that would be something that that I feel like it would be appropriate if I shared that with a kid who was dealing with suicide ideation and saying, look, I get what it's like to feel that level of rock bottom. And so just again, just normalizing the human condition. And I agree with Greg. I mean, sometimes that word mental health is so stigmatized. But like I said, I try to use the word the human condition, and we're much more similar than we are different. And throughout the whole lifespan, we're going to experience it. Again, I didn't feel like ever truly giving up until I was 50 years old. And so I think people that say, oh, I've never experienced that, I never will experience any type of suicide ideation. I think we have to realize, man, over the lifespan, getting old is not for sissies. And you may make it through your 30s, 40s, 50s, but you're going to get 60, 70, 80 years old. You're going to experience rock bottom. Again, it's part of the human condition.
Yeah, good point.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I was thinking when Greg was talking a little bit about, sometimes we need to just kind of directly ask, and we need some directness to our questions. I think the same concept of directness applies to how we need to make sure we're communicating that we care as well. I'm reading through the comments, and I can tell that there's a tenseness to this topic, because when we discuss it, it usually represents somebody that we care very deeply about or that we're very worried about. And I appreciate the care and the concern that you all are bringing into the comments. And one thing I wanted to throw out, and this I guess is probably the school of psyche in me, but if you're nervous or you don't know what to say, we can always communicate our care in a like more overtly than maybe we normally would. We don't have to be subtle. Letting people know that you care about them, that you are worried about them, or that you're thinking about them in a very overt and a very direct way can go a long ways. We're not suggesting that everybody has to be a mental health practitioner. Sometimes just bravely communicating, our level of care can go a long ways in being supportive. So I'm wondering now, let's talk a little bit. We actually on this one got a couple emails in before with people asking us to address some things. One of the ones that came up, I was wondering if we could discuss, and maybe we'll combine this, make it like a two-part question. So any tips that either of you would have specifically on what we should do right now, like what our next steps should be if we have someone specifically in our life that we're worried about, that we're concerned about, and then also maybe address the idea of how we can support students within a community that have had a recent suicide within the community. Those can be really devastating and have a ripple effect. How can we support those types of communities as well? Maybe let's start with Christian and then bounce over to Greg.
Yeah. So you're with someone in our life that if we're worried about, like a friend,
Yep.
a family member, or someone close to us. Yeah. I have a sister right now who's homeless, and she deals with pretty intense suicide ideation and some mental health issues. But with her, I have to constantly be way more unconditional than conditional. For several years, as I tried to help her, I was like, okay, I got to come down with the hammer. She has to be accountable. She has to follow through. And I've seen more progress when I'm unconditional versus, coming down with that hammer being conditional, and seeing some progress there, but it's been intense. In the past with her, with other family members, I'll go directly with them to a provider. If I'm really concerned about where they are, I'll go with them. But again, it goes back to that, some of those questions we were asking a few minutes ago, where are you right now? How can I be of assistance? How can I help you? And kind of empowering them with that. The other thing that I'm realizing is this really important. I've been paying close attention to, we know that people have to have, if it's a family member, I'm going to have a relationship with them. We know that having that connection, being part of a tribe, being part of an institution, all the research shows that when you're connected to something, you're more likely to not commit suicide. You're more likely to have those, supports. But what we're realizing is if being connected is the biggest X factor in being able to work through depression and a lot of these mental health things, we need to look at what causes people to leave support systems, or to leave a tribe, or leave an institution, or drop out of school, and all these things. And so I was doing some research last 24 hours looking at, okay, what are some of the biggest X factors that cause that? And I learned that if a person feels unacceptable, they're more likely to disengage from the supports that would be protective factors. If they feel out of place, they're more likely to withdraw from those supports. And so one of the things I want to do is just make sure anybody who I'm interacting with, I care about, that even what's unique about them, I'm going to accept, even their weaknesses, their fears, the pain they're going through. The other thing why people disengage from their tribe or support systems is they don't feel heard. Again, what is unique about them isn't respected or understood. Everybody has quirks. And so everybody has their own uniqueness about them. And sometimes we reject people because of their views or a million different things. We see how divided this country is right now. We can always come up with a reason to disconnect from someone. But letting them be unique. I know Hewlett Packard had a thing in their business that transformed their whole company, is they just said, we're going to respect people where they stand, with their flaws, with their weaknesses, what's unique about them. And then if a system is rigid and it's one way or a highway, people are going to want to disconnect. And so I think if we know that relationships, tribes, institutions are the greatest X factors or protective factors that help people thrive, I think we've got to really take the time to understand what causes people to disengage from those, and then, be willing to provide those opposite, supports and services. If being out of place, if feeling out of place is one of the reasons people disengage from things, then creating a safe place for them where they can feel heard. I know, I'm a clinical social worker, I'm 50 years old, but if I sit down and eat turkey on Thursday and I don't feel valued, or I don't feel my voice is heard, I don't enjoy eating that turkey dinner on Thursday. If I sit down at a business table and I don't feel heard or respected or understood, and I'm not accepted with what's unique about me, I don't want to contribute in that business meeting. So whatever table you're sitting at, we know human beings are more motivated to stay engaged, to get the supports, to get the services that would help keep them alive, if they feel heard and they feel like they're giving a contribution, they're producing something. When you don't feel like you're contributing to a system, you're more likely to want to disengage with that system. So I'm doing some research right now, trying to figure out what causes people to walk away from support systems, because until we figure that out, I think we're going to miss too many children and adults who are not getting the services that would keep them alive. And again, I'm early working on this. I probably shouldn't be jumping into this yet, but I'm excited about the research I'm seeing on it. And it's just a different way of approaching it. What if we know exactly why people disengage, we can figure out how to keep them engaged. And I think that's, I'm hoping that plays a role in suicide prevention in the future. I'll be quiet. I need to go on
Awesome.
a
Thank you.
tangent
Thank
here.
you, Christian.
Apologize.
Greg, what are your thoughts as far as what we should do if we have someone in our life we're worried about, we're thinking about, and then also ways to support communities that have been impacted by suicide recently?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is to know your resources in your community. In my county, we're probably 500,000 now. Our organization has listed on it. If you go to our website, resources, we list every single provider, what they charge, what insurance they take, what they specialize in. So that as a school counselor, I can sit down with that parent and say, Mrs. Johnson, here's some resources that are available in our community. I can't refer you to any of them, but let's look at which ones you have insurance with that may qualify, et cetera. The other thing is never being afraid to ask. When you're afraid of that child that may be harming themselves or doing whatever, it's having that courage to reach out. And like I mentioned earlier, the I message. In talking specifically about suicide, because that's part of my expertise, and postvention, I get called into communities and schools where they lost 5 kids, 7 kids. The school I'm working with right now, 7 kids that they lost in one school year. One of the things I do is I meet with the superintendent, I meet with the mayor, I meet with the city council, I meet with school administration, everybody together, businessmen. And one of the things I start with is I draw a circle, and I start drawing circles like on a tree. And the first circle that I worry the most about is who are the closest to that child who took their life. So I always go to the home with the principal after a suicide. And of course, we're sharing the pain and how much we love the child and everything. But I always ask a couple of questions. The first question is, who was your child's best friends? The second question is, were any of these kids with your child when they took their life? Because we're going to do everything we can to make sure we don't lose another child. Now, I know that seems kind of cold, but I want to do everything I can to make sure that we don't lose another child to suicide. Then my next circle is anyone in my school system or in my community who may have been hospitalized for attempting. Because we know someone that's attempted is 50% more likely to attempt than someone that hasn't. And that third circle is if you've lost someone in your family to suicide, that's direct blood, grandma, grandpa, aunt or uncle, brother or sister, you're a high risk to attempt again, because like what Christian talked about with genetics and other things that way. And so, we're constantly looking at ways that we can reduce that threat of other kids who may be attempting. And then the last thing that I would encourage all of us is don't be afraid to ask. When you know that student who may be struggling, and the young man that took his life, his name is Johnny, is to say, it's difficult for all of us that Johnny took his life. Don't be afraid to talk about it, and then open it up. Don't preach. Don't try to fix it. But what you're doing is you're allowing them to talk about their pain and what they may be struggling with. And it's amazing what these young people will do to open up when they know there's someone who's not going to judge them and someone who's not going to not listen. So it is that engagement, like Christian talked about, that is so critical.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. We are right up on an hour. And so I think we're going to try to keep it to an hour today. But what I want to do is just finish with 2 things from you and from each of you. First of all, I want to ask you this question, and then we'll give you a chance for any parting thoughts, anything else that you wanted to mention that maybe you forgot to mention earlier. This question I love asking people, especially right now going into the holidays. It can be stressful. I want to know what is giving you hope right now. Let's hear from Greg first and then hear from Christian. Greg, what's giving you hope right now?
I believe in the American dream. I believe in public education. I love it. I know we have challenges right now for the adults and for the kids, but I promise you we're going to get through it. And when we're not going to be able to perform at the level that we usually perform. And that's okay. We need to accept that. We're going to do the best we can, and we're going to get that. We're going to get through it by loving these kids and providing as much support as we possibly can. And then the second part of it is family. In 2 days, we're going to be with our families, limited. My wife and I will be doing it through Zoom. But it's that love of family and knowing that we as a country are based upon that. And so let's all be grateful for the many blessings, even during these difficult times.
Awesome. Thank you. Christian, what's giving you hope?
Yeah, along with Greg, I'm damn proud of what educators are doing. Teachers, counselors, social workers, psychologists, school administrators, all that we're doing to not let our kids down. I think, if you're inside education, you really realize the sacrifice, you realize what's really going on. I wish the whole country could really realize the sacrifice and the professionalism that has been delivered to literally very few industries at this level could, just completely turn over and be as productive. I understand there's still challenges, but overall, I'm really proud of my fellow educators. The other thing I'm excited about is, we were just talking about how mental health is highly stigmatized, but also I think during COVID, I think we have made some progress there. I think we're starting to realize how dependent we are on each other. During all the social isolation, we realize now, wow, if we're going to thrive, we're much more likely to thrive with other people. That debate is over. And I'm also excited to see that, mental well-being is talked about now on the news a lot more, in social media, in the workplace, in government, and all this stuff. People are trying to get more legislation passed and more funding for mental health. We're starting to, this pandemic has really, helped us see, man, we really, really need to invest in mental health. And I'm excited about that. I mean, there's still a lot of work to go there, but I think we're further than we were. I think a lot of the debates we were having for years are like, that's bleeding heart social workers saying we need this, and it's becoming more mainstream. So that gives me huge optimism.
Awesome. Thank you. Any parting thoughts from either of you? Anything else you want to mention before we finish up?
I think it's the message to everybody: take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Take some time off and really enjoy, and put all the papers you need to grade and all the information. I grew up going to all my nephews and nieces' ball games with my relatives sitting on the bleachers grading papers. Don't do this. This is Thanksgiving. Now's a chance to enjoy your family and be with each other and not to feel guilty. So bless you for what you do. And
Awesome.
to social workers. My wife is an LCSW and I taught at BYU. So bless you for all of the mental health wellness things that you're doing.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
I just want to end with an intervention kind of do what Greg's talking about. And that's just when your head hits the pillow at night, give yourself that grace. To mess up is to be human. Focus on, what did I do right today? How can I do more of that tomorrow? And literally, forgive yourself, get rid of all guilt, shame. You're human. You learn every day. You got to let some of the mistakes of the past go and focus on what you're doing right. And I just want to say, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate all that you guys are doing out there to make a difference in kids' lives. And you guys are all my heroes. And please check out our podcast, the Resilience Breakthrough Podcast, if you're interested in more of this. What the Hope Squad does is incredible. It helped my own kids. Both my kids went through Hope Squad, and I'm a huge fan of that. And definitely check out what Greg's doing. And one thing I've had people, when we did this last time, I had several people say, hey, we'd love to have, WhyTry and Hope Squad together. And me and Greg are looking for a situation where we could maybe do a project together. So if anybody's interested in doing a combination with WhyTry and Hope Squad, the two together, me and Greg would love to even see some data on that, or to see how those two things work together. So if anybody's interested in doing that type of a project, please get a hold of us, and we would love to do something innovative together, so we can take that to that next level. So let us know if you're interested in that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for our panelists. And then most importantly, thank you to all of you. I echo Greg and Christian's sentiments. Thank you so much. Take this holiday as an opportunity to recharge your batteries, and you're making a difference in these kids' lives. I know it doesn't always feel like it right now in 2020, working remotely and virtually, but you are. We hear from kids regularly how much they appreciate hearing from their teachers. So thank you so much. Have a great holiday weekend. Charge those batteries. We love you. Appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. I'm going to put up a link with information on how to access our websites, our material. We're going to send out a copy of the webinar probably later this week or early next week, and you'll be able to review this. Greg gave some great tips on there that I think will be worth reviewing, and Christian's ideas were equally awesome on there. So thank you, everybody. Have a